Hello everyone. On behalf of ManteioIT Solutions, I would like to welcome you all to the event. So we have named this event Empower Her today for celebrating International Women's Day. So we are here to unite. We are united here to recognize the strength, resilience, and accomplishments of women globally. Today we have here.
Everyone, tell about myself. Why do you think we have to celebrate Women's Day? Anyone? Yeah, kind of. Yeah. True. And as you were saying, we play a key role, but often our the efforts are not recognized. So are the opportunities and the challenges we have are much more than the other gender to do the same. So to compensate for it, there have to be women coming in the leadership role. So how I have seen the things changing up. So I have I have born and brought up in a family who's into business. My grandpa used to be head of a pharmacy company, and then my dad was dealing with the automobile companies. But sadly, we are not Ambanis. We have seen the rock bottoms where, for ages when I was growing up, I didn't know what is it to go somewhere and shop for my clothes. All I used to do was wear my cousins, and it was like a tough financial times going through those. And seeing all that, I always decided I'll get a very stable job, study well, very well, so that I when I sit for the campus placement, they cannot deny me at all. So that was the level of zeal I had to pursue my studies. I had I was able to achieve them. Bachelor's I did from a top state university. Then for the masters I went for IIT. And in IIT, I was very sure that, okay, I'll go abroad. Now I'll make even more money. So it becomes much easier for my family to come back and take care of them. So I was there sitting for the PhD interviews for the PhD. I did get into the top university. In fact, one of the university I got in is less than the top 10. But one lecture has changed the whole thinking of mine. So it's before COVID, so we had a lecture on how usually this diagnosis. Okay, something I missed is I studied biotechnology. I was in science. So I did a lot of experiments in lab, which are now just coming up and being placed in, you are getting to see the value of this diagnostics. But PCR, before COVID had it, I got to know through a doctor in the guest lecture that it costs around 6,000 to do a test, and many children during their birth miss out on this test, and they are missing on huge diagnosis of diseases like this genetic diseases or whatever you may call it. So it kind of moved me so much because that's an experiment I do it in day out in my lab every day, very casually. At times the experiment goes wrong and I throw everything and I'll start the things again. But one round of experiment which I do can save a child's life in real life. That is I could see the huge gap we are dealing with. We are having the things for the research, but nothing is coming out. What happened to the tech transfer to the daily common man? So that's where I had taken a move. Whatever the research, it does hold a value. But where it comes out and I could see people using it is a really long term. So I started looking for my opportunities where I can contribute to the society. And luckily, as I was saying, I know that financially I have to be taken care. I cannot start the things in the gist and I'm like, okay, I'm doing something good tomorrow. So luckily there are opportunities now to start the startups. So there is a fellowship by Indian government where they would be giving you the space and even all the mentorship support to take care of you and give you a complete knowledge on how to start something. So I was a part of the fellowship, and that's where I wanted to do something in healthcare because, as I was talking about all this gap between the transfer of technology, I have visited the rural areas and the utmost places where there's even no internet and like the ambulances couldn't reach. There were people who were walking down in emergency to come to the town, to the nearest place in the hospital. So that in this whole thought process, we even saw that how the persons with disabilities is like most neglected. Yeah, like you can understand like in emergencies or the basic things like the BP or the diabetes, they don't have a point of continuum of the care. It is really difficult and like that I've seen in village few places where they actually wait for the people to die. Let them like the persons with disabilities. It's okay. We cannot do anything regarding it. Let them die. But again, we are not doing anything in an NGO thing. When I decided to start taking care of it, it did hit me hard. It's very close to me. But we did try to see how we are seeing the market. So it is might be very surprising. 15% of the Indian population are disabled, and they are missing out with you because we are not empowering them to work in their day-to-day life. We are missing out on huge opportunity to increase our GDP. And if I can give you the things, like most of them families, if with the minimal care, like for example, our products does cost the subscription of Netflix. So making the things so affordable to them, you can make them place and can increase the country's GDP by more than double, because 10-15% is not a small number at all. So that's where we started Grail Makers, where our products, we have two products. Like the product which I am leading is, it helps the parents to provide the therapy. So therapy is something where like if any child is disabled, they have to have a continuous sessions of this therapy going on. It's called early intervention. You might be heard of the physiotherapy. Like after some accident, you have to do some exercises. Similarly, for many of these children with autism or cerebral palsy or any kind of a brain disorders or anything, the child has to go to the clinics and daily they have to do certain activities. So we have developed an application where we are making the whole experience easier for the child, and at the same time parents. We are cutting down the huge effort for them to come down to the clinics, sit there for a while and give the therapy to the children. So again, as Muskan said, 2 years down the line, we are able to capture a good amount of market, nearly 3,000 users. But the journey wasn't easy at all. So I would say that I had a privilege being like seeing the opportunities sitting here in Hyderabad, and the network I was building and professionally when I could see this, I didn't have a much difference of being a woman founder or a counterpart of being a male. So that is something changing. Very happy for it. So are the opportunities. Like when we want to start, I could see that like many support systems are there being established from the government, where like they support the women founders with the funding or the travel grants to go somewhere or so. But the challenges I faced in my personal life or the society immediately, it was much different from what a counterpart like a male my colleague could face in their general life. So I would like to run you through some of the examples so that like I could give you a gist of how it is for the many people. I'm sure the women in this room can relate to it too. So yeah, exactly last year, around the summer, we started looking for an office space because we felt, okay, COVID, let's start getting back so that communication would be much better if we sit one place and do it. So I spent 2 months looking around because, okay, another thing, none of my colleagues are Telugu. I'm the only Telugu in my team. So I took the initiative. I went around and I started, so every day my task was tick down the things I have to look for in the websites, the no broker sites and all. Call them, Miru office, and of course we couldn't cut down to the high-tech city because we are not having the affordability to set up an office there. We were looking for an apartment space. I used to call the owners. They're like, I used to ask them, office ki istara? There a few were like tempted, okay, double ఎక్కువ ఇస్తా డెఫినెట్గా ఇస్తాం, and a few were like stepping back. But when I took my bike and go there, నేను అక్కడ ప్రోడక్ట్ ఎక్స్ప్లెయిన్ చేస్తున్నప్పుడు they used to listen to me sometimes, oh like, oh nice, very good initiative, visually impaired వాళ్ళక fine. But as like after 2-3 minutes, the first I could see them, they're like scanning me, పైన నాకు బొట్టు ఉందా, మెట్టలు ఉన్నాయా. దెన్ ద ఇమీడియట్ క్వశ్చన్ వాజ్ లైక్, మీకు పెళ్ళయిందా? నో. దెన్ స్లోలీ వెరీ సటిల్లీ ఆఫ్టర్ 5 minutes దే లైక్, లేదు మాకు ఇంట్రెస్ట్ లేదు. సో అది నాకు ఒక 3-4 మీటింగ్స్ తర్వాత ఐమ్ లైక్, ఐ అండర్స్టాండ్, లైక్ ఓకే, వాళ్ళకి నాకు పెళ్ళవ్వలేదు, ఒక అన్మ్యారీడ్ ఉమెన్ వాంట్స్ టు రన్ ఎ స్టార్ట్అప్ ఇన్ సమ్ స్పేస్, ఇట్ ఈస్ బికమింగ్ వెరీ ఫజీ ఫర్ దెమ్. సో లేటర్ నేను అది ఎట్లా కన్వర్ట్ చేశానంటే, ఐ స్టార్టెడ్ టేకింగ్ మై కొలీగ్ and I was like, he is the founder, నేను హెల్ప్ చేస్తున్నాను, తనకి తెలుగు రాదు, and so I'm just like being there helping him. Yeah, play around, exactly. And yeah, he is taking care of the space, and it worked. Surprisingly it worked. And yeah, that's like a huge hit for me. I mean, I could voice over and say I tried, and majjilo I was so raging out. I was like, I'm an IIT and I'm making a business, but you're not seeing that at all. And all you care about is, you know, like questioning my character because of my gender, that it hit me hard. So idhar muggurki annanu, I like, this is not the way you deal with it. They're like, yeah, but ultimately they are the owners, they are the ones who can decide whether they can give me or not. I can't do anything about it. But that's something which, you know, it stays with me, and it's like, maybe later on, I don't know when the things change, but I hope, you know, others might not face it day in, day out. But other incident is, like, as I was having this alliances for the marriage, I had like, it was like many situations where many think that we are doing some hobby. And it's like, okay, this is me in company kada, it's fine, you move on with me. So that is a very common question, like I think many women do face, it's very common. But one thing which hit me very hard is, like, as a founder, like as any initial founder, we don't draw a lot of salary because it's the company's interest, and we look for the company's development. So for the one, my to-be father-in-law came and sat down, and I told that this is like, I'm very interested in running my company, and I could see the potential it goes somewhere. So he thought for a while, and he was like, don't worry, if you're financially, you would be taken care of. I'll be giving you the salary for the next 2 years as a loan, and I'll invest in your company, but you work from somewhere else, and when you want to come back, then you start taking care of the company. So it's like, you know, like, you go become pregnant, but your company will be running because I'm investing and I'm giving you salary. So that is the kind of tone he had. So it was like, I didn't say anything. I just came back and cancelled the whole proposal. But the same guy, after we started reaching out to, like, you know, media coverages were going on, and I started speaking in a lot of platforms. So after nearly 2 months, he texted me a long message saying that sorry for doing it, and all the best. I believe that you can run it well. All the best for doing so. So this is something, you know, when you have to face so many fights day in, day out, and like there would be a parental pressure, and the society doesn't believe in you, it becomes all the way, it is difficult for you to do it. But the other things I see as a woman doing it is, I bring a lot on the table because I am the one facing it in the first hand. So like recently I had faced a situation, like our audits were going on, I was going home at around 11 o'clock, and it hit me very hard that, like, driving back, and our office is around Secunderabad, and like that connects to the highway after a while. So when I was driving back, I was like the only one on two-wheeler in amidst of all the lorries. So that was like a moment I realized, okay, any woman in a company is going back late in the night, will make sure that she'll be sent in a cab. It's no more taken care, like, you know, it's not okay for you to just take that risk on the go. So these are something which I'm realizing on the go, and also I could see it's like it's not like a woman who's in business is like a thug life girl, doesn't care about anything. I think many women does agree with me that we do have our soft corners, we do understand our parental worries, and when we are going out late at the night, we also have to balance how they think of the whole thing and how they are managing. So seeing all this in and out, I'm making sure that our employees are not facing the worst of the situations. And uh, other thing, like, after 2 years, though I didn't have the people in the team who are like full-time women employees, but what I'm very proud of is our interns. They are in the best of the places after they left us. I mean, they worked with me hardly for 2-3 months, but after the leaving our office, one of them is working for a company in US, and one is doing her MBA in France. So like, and still they are in contact with me, and they come back to me and share the progress. So that's something which I'm very proud of. Like, as a leader, I'm being little empathetic and bringing things on the table which women co-workers need altogether. And through all this journey, I can simply say that, I proved those people wrong. I'm so proud of it. It is like good to say, good story to always go back and say people. But I feel the things would have been much easier and comfortable for me if there had been a support. I wouldn't have lost 2.5 months looking for a house if I would have got in the first go and someone believed that my company, it doesn't matter if it's run by girl or man. So these are the few things which we face in day to day. But as I was saying, when the women become a leader, the things change altogether, because you are the ones setting the example, and you are the ones who also lead the team in a different manner altogether. And closing on with the stats, currently in India, 15% of the women startups have been led by women co-founders. And in the last 10 years, the Fortune 1000 companies, if you look back, more than double the revenue generation was doubled when the women came on the board. So that's the potential we can bring on when we get into the leadership. That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pratyusha. It was really very inspiring. So I would like to ask you a few questions. Like, can you please just let us know how important mentorship and networking is for women entrepreneurs to get into the business and get familiar with the society?
This I definitely agree on, because many mistakes or anything, the opportunities, like even just now Vijaya was saying, there are many opportunities but we don't know, we miss out on it. I agree the internet and all, but like still, there's a lot of difference when you know the person in person. As it's like a building that trust factor, no? Even when you go for interviews, if you already have reached out to them, that makes a lot of difference. So does it with the funding for the startups or acquiring the customers. So when you have the network being built usually, so that becomes a different factor altogether. And women being there for women makes a lot of difference, because you get to share those things in the personal life, right? Like that you cannot do with the other random person you met in the networking event. But I get to do that, and I got a lot of support and advices from the women co-founders. And many a times, like we did have our lows too, where we weren't having the sales, but seeing some other startup founder down the line who's like for 5-year-old, 6-year-old has done it, it gave us a huge boost. And it gave us a direction on how to again mold ourselves and take the things forward. So this again, the direct networking might be there with the investors or things from them. That scenario is completely different from the people you meet in the other founders. So both bring a lot of difference on the table altogether. Am I answering your question?
Yeah. So, in your point, like, what are the most effective strategies in building a very diverse team? Since you're working with a startup, you're working right. Mm-hmm. So, what are those strategies? Can you have anything?
So, I mean, I take it I'm very proud that now we are a team of 5, and more than 50% are women. and nearly 50% of the persons with visual impairment, because our direct customers are visually impaired, and we make sure that their use cases is discussed in day out. Like when I work with visually impaired directly, it gives me a different perspective altogether. So the strategies we take to hire them is, okay, when it comes to the gender, I think I'll give you the real scenarios. As a company, we do think, like if you hire a woman, what if she goes on a maternal leave? This is a very common talk between the founders. How do you manage hiring a woman also? But like many a times, I think it didn't cross me and my team that like, oh, would that happen? Because luckily our team didn't have that scenarios where like someone just dropped out because of the leaves, long leaves or so. I don't say it's a lucky, I'm sorry to use that word, but yeah, as a startup, there's a concern because you're paying someone for the next 9 months, or like at least next 3 months when they are not in office. It is a tough part altogether. But you can, one thing you can see is you have to evaluate the things they bring on the table. As I'm saying, the empathetic factor. And so, for example, in our case, we deal directly with the parents. So if tomorrow I need a marketing officer, definitely would be a mother, because the way she goes and talks to the customers, our direct customers' mothers, would be much different from a man who's doing it. I'm not discriminating men here, don't, sorry for that. But yeah, I'm just saying that like there's a lot different things a woman can bring in depending upon the role. Again, few gender-based roles would be there. So I think that's something which can be thought of while hiring.
Thank you, Piyusha. Okay, so I would now like to call Aishwarya. First, Aishwarya is a co-founder of Grailmaker Innovations, and she has over a decade of experience as a rehabilitation counselor. And despite losing her senses to brain tumor, she has decided to be determined to her dreams, and now she is known as the blind filmmaker, where she works in crafting 3D arts for individuals who are visually impaired. So Aishwarya, can you please come this way? You can sit, Aishwarya, actually you can sit on top.
No, I'm good. Pratyusha is over here is our general. She always goes first. And now also Vidya and I were fighting. No, Pratyusha has to go first. So thanks, Pratyusha. As for me, I was born sighted. I was like any other kid. I had blessed parents because they never discriminated because I was a girl. So I was a tomboy. Back then they did not celebrate Tomboy Day because I would have been the first one to celebrate it, because I would be bashing up boys in my class. But then when I grew up, I had few tragedies in my life, losing both my parents to cancer. Then when I was just about to finish my bachelor's in mass communication, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. And the consequence of a brain tumor had me lose my eyesight, hearing, smell, taste, memory, and I was also heading for paralysis on my right limbs. I wanted to get into video editing, filmmaking. We have big dreams that I want to be this, I want to be that. Yes, I had my dream, but it all shattered right in front of my eyes. And to top it all, the doctor said I would not survive more than 3 months. All doors for me were closed. I had the disability and I had to battle life and death. But thank goodness, I recuperated within 9 months. So only my eyesight remained damaged. I do have some partial vision loss on my left ear, but I can still hear you guys. Don't worry about it. So when I had the disability, I was getting used to the disability. That is when the pinch of being a disabled person and being a woman struck me. Because I remember during my sister's wedding, she's my elder sister, one of my own family member commented to my mom. They said, the elder one is married, but I think, ye to abhi waste hai. These are the comments that my family members said to me. So was I really a waste? I'll take you all through that journey as well. I went into content writing, and I did well, but many companies closed their doors because I had the disability. Then in 2012, I went to the LV Prasad Eye Institute. There I got rehabilitated using the screen reader software. So screen reader software is basically inbuilt into your computers and mobile phones that will, when you operate it, it talks back to you and you're able to operate different apps and tools. So I used it, and I also used my mobility stick. I was just commenting to Pratusha that is my Gandhiji stick and she's my Abba and Manu. And so using that stick, I started traveling alone. My first trip, I remember, if you all come across the road number 2 Banjara Hills, it's also called the LVP mark. There's a footover bridge. So I traveled from LVP to opposite PVR cinema to eat McDonald's burger all alone. So do remember me when you cross that road. So for me, that was my first travel alone. It was short distance. Since then, I've been traveling alone, booking Uber because of the app that I use. So when I travel alone, the first question, the Uber driver does not know that I'm a woman. I mean, I have the disability. So when I sit and then he sees me, okay, she's blind. He's like, आप क्यों travel करते हैं alone? आप घर में रहना नहीं? Hyderabadi Hindi. Okay. And then I'm like, क्यों भैया आप काम नहीं कर रहे क्या? मैं काम नहीं कर सकती क्या? नहीं, कुछ हो जाता तो क्या होता भैया? I would ask him ulta. Okay, so there are several situations, and some people were like, as if they know me for lifelong, you got married, huh? Marriage will eventually happen. That is not the only thing that we are made for. And because they have a doubt, how can somebody marry me because I have a disability? And as from my experience working I worked for 10 years as a rehab counselor. I've had many situations where I had to counsel the patients. And this is very saddening. I'd like to bring to your notice 2 examples. There was a lady, she did not reveal about her eyesight to her husband before marriage. She wanted to, but the father said no. There's a condition called retinitis pigmentosa where the eyesight slowly degenerates. So initially they're able to see it. Okay, so nighttime they have a problem seeing. So when they got married, slowly the in-laws family and their husband realized that she has some problem with the eyesight. And after the birth of the baby, before the birth, like this, usually send the women to the family's house. So they send this lady back to the mother's place, and the husband is not coming back to take her. He's not answering her calls, nothing at all. And finally, the wife's brother goes to the husband's village to see what this guy is up to. When they go there, they realize that the husband is married again. This is the situation because they didn't want a woman with a disability. And another example I would like to give you is when it comes to see, I don't have any discrimination against men. I'm not going to be a tomboy here, but I'm just saying, when a guy has a disability, visual impairment, the parents expect, okay, our guy has got a government job, so we need a girl and let's get him married. So any girl will do. So what is the tagline? Okay, he has a government job, so you can get married to him. But when it comes to a woman, it's not the same. How much ever you do, you may be in the highest position. Many women I know who have a disability and doing very well professionally, they are not married today just because of their disability. Because people look down upon, kya hai? Kaam hai to, dhanda hai to, what is, she cannot see. The guy also cannot see, but he can get married, but the girl cannot get married. One example, there was this father from a rural area. He came with his daughter. The daughter was like 16 years old, and she was not talking at all. What I realized is the father was over dominating, and I asked, what happened? Why don't you send her? She was not educated at all. She was at home. She was a dependent. And then we asked the father, why do you sell? But I have 10 decades of being a rehab counselor. After giving up my dreams of filmmaking, today I'm known as a blind filmmaker. I script and direct videos. And my hobby was pencil sketching back then before I lost my eyesight. But today, I do 3D art that blind people can touch and experience. Also, I've been lately started conducting workshops where I teach blind persons to do these artworks themselves. And I'm so happy that in this Jan, I joined Grail Makers as a co-founder. So what is less in me? Like that, there are many women in the community that I know of. There is Ira Singhal, you can look her up. She has scoliosis, means there's a lump on the shoulder. She's the first IAS officer with a disability. And her experience, first of all, she's a woman, and because of the disability, people make fun of her at her back. And there is IFS officer, Binu Zeffin, Indian Foreign Services. She's the first visually impaired officer to get that position. There is Ketna Mehta. She has spinal cord injury, and she runs an organization today for all the people who have spinal cord injury. Now, are we lacking behind? Is it our mistake that we have the disability? It's a question to ponder upon, but people still have the mindset, that, okay, urban areas, relatively, people do accept us wherever we go. But, mostly across India, if you see the towns and villages, disability is still treated as a stigma. And especially if a woman has a disability, they are, treated as an outcast. That's a question. That's a situation that we really need to think about and support it. And I have been in this field and I have seen so many women do well. And I'm working towards it. I'm not somebody who would sit and cry about my wound, because if I would have cried, I wouldn't be here talking to you all today. Because I could take that one step towards my life ahead. I'm standing here and talking to you all. I'm just a voice here, but there are many women who reflect the same, women with disabilities. And I think, from my experience, nobody should be, treated, should not be discriminated just because they are women and they have a disability. Yes, I have vision loss and I have partial hearing loss. I could be modern age Helen Keller. So on that note, I'd like to conclude and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. I would like to ask you a few questions. So, being a specially abled person, I would say, I won't call it a disability. I hope most of you all agree with me now. So, what support do you expect from the society?
Thank you so much, Muskan, for the question. I think the support that I expect from the society is the mindset, because that is where everything changes. Example, I'll give you an example. Like, let's say there's an architect, okay? And if he has a different perception about somebody with disability, a negative perception, tomorrow when he designs something, he may not include an inclusive infrastructure. But then, if he's aware of the requirements of people with disability, if his mindset towards people with disability is positive, tomorrow when he's designing something, he'll make that place accessible. Example, a simple ramp, to a building. Because I have friends from the other disability community who are wheelchair users. We all get excited, we go to a place and suddenly we realize that there's no ramp. And it's all in the mindset, I feel. The mindset is something that should change for bringing further developments in this field.
Now I would like to introduce Vidya. So Vidya is the co-founder of Pivotal Technologies, which is a startup. They help other startups and media companies in content marketing strategies. And she also leads the Hyderabad book community. So she is very fond of books, and she is here to talk about women authors. So Vidya, can you please?
Yes. Hey everyone, good evening. Just let me start by asking a simple question. How many of you here do you read books? How many of you grew up listening to stories? How many of you watch movies on a regular basis? A lot of you. Okay, so the basic common thing among listening to stories or reading books or watching movies is that there are characters that can influence you in your everyday life. Especially while growing up, as a kid, we have, read or listened to Panchatantra stories, with the stories where there is a moral at the end, which teaches us good, this is bad. So when you read such stories, you are influenced by these characters. And let me ask you one more question here. Are there any female characters, women characters or women writers which you have read or influenced by in your childhood? Can you remember any, at least one name? Not even 5. Yes. Pedras Petama, good one. Can you tell me just simply why it was very inspiring or favorite character?
Actually, in my childhood, when the telling stories were going on,
Okay.
they used to start with there's a one lady called Pedras Petama. She used to teach the good things to kids. She
Okay.
used to carry on and kids and she
Right.
used to tell stories. Basically, good morning.
Yes.
So that's the only character that you remember from the childhood.
Right. So there's a woman who is teaching stories. I mean, narrating stories to the kids by gathering them together. And yeah, that's a very good example. And the reason I asked this question is because even now, even forget about childhood. If I ask or take the present authors or filmmakers, we watch very few movies directed by women or read very few books written by women. I mean, it's not because we are partial towards men or anything. I think it's because from my own experience is that whenever there is a popular book or a movie, it's usually directed or written by a man. We don't consciously take the effort to watch movies made by women or read books written by women. So why I bring up this experience is because I recently read a book called Normal People by Sally Rooney. So she's a writer who writes about up and coming of age characters who just finished their schooling and goes to do college and how to settle in life. All these characters are coming of age. And when I read the book at this age, I was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I wish I could have read this when I was in my own college, when I was doing my college, because the characters that are represented in the book were like let me just give you one sentence or the one brief storyline about how the characters go about. So there's this character called Marianne. So she's a very silent kid during her school, and she minds her own business. She's an introvert. She doesn't have much friends. She doesn't have a big circle to hang out with. And many book readers, especially people like me who are into books, could relate to that character. And I felt like I belonged somewhere. I felt like I could relate to this character. I wish I read this book when I was in college, because in when I was in college or school, I felt like there was no representation of me. Everyone was like very extroverted. Everyone tells me to you should go out, talk with more people, you should make more friends. So when I didn't have women characters, since I grew up reading books and watching movies and everything, I felt like I did not belong. I felt like I was why am I different? I was questioning myself. So when I read this book, I felt like maybe if I read this book back when I was in college, I would have felt more at place, more grounded, or more stable with more acceptable with what I was as a kid. So yes, stories do have that impact on our lives, and I think the way the representation of especially women, I think we should take that little bit of effort to consciously choose to watch movies directed by women, or to read books written by women. And nowadays I see a lot of women authors becoming fewer and fewer. I mean, recently this book fair happened, Hyderabad Book Fair. I'm sure you guys all know it happens every year for 10 days, and there are like 300 plus stalls. And recently I've observed that Telugu books have been becoming popular, and I have volunteered for one of the stalls, which was for a Telugu publication. And when I went there were a lot of male authors having their books displayed over there, and there was only one single female who was displaying her book. I was like shocked. Oh my god, there's only one female and there's so many male authors. And I was like, okay, this is the scene that's happening in the publication industry now. The authors are becoming fewer. I mean, especially female authors are becoming fewer. And I was like, I think there should be a platform to encourage women authors. And that's the reason why in our book club, Hyderabad Book Club, for this month we chose the theme as women written by women. The women characters which you read in a book are actually written by women. And if you actually read one or two books written by man and written by women, you can compare how these two characters are being represented, how different they are. And it's not to diss the male authors or such. I'm sure they have done their own research. I'm sure they put a lot of thought into writing their women characters. But the way women characters, when written by women, are completely different from my perspective. They feel more relatable, they feel more sensible, they feel more realistic, especially to me. So this is the theme we chose for this month, and I urged many of our readers to pick a book, consciously choose books written by women, and see the difference for yourself, so that you can expand your diversify your habits of reading, so that we can encourage more women authors to come onto the publication industry, so that we can give the voice back to the women, so that other women like me can relate to them. So yeah. And just one more on a closing note, just wanted to ask you one request from my side, is that next time you pick a book or watch a movie, ask yourself, is the character written by women? If it's a woman, is the character written by women? If it's directed by man, how is it different from the characters written by women? Because since stories have such powerful power with them to influence you, it's important for us to choose what kind of influence we are having in our lives, what kind of influence we are allowing into our lives, what kind of people we are asking to represent us. So yeah, that's one request.
Thank you so much, Aishwarya. Ma'am, can we have the gifts to collect? I would like to thank you all for attending this event, and I would especially like to thank our guest speakers for being here and inspiring us. Together, let us carry forward the spirit of women empowerment. Once again, a big thank you to all of you.
Since it's your day, all women say I don't even talk.
This morning, a gentleman wished me Happy Women's Day, and I wished him back same to you.
టుడే మార్నింగ్ వాడు హ్యాపీ ఉమెన్స్ డే అని కార్డ్ చేశాడు. నెక్స్ట్ ఇంకోటి చేస్తున్నాడు, ఏంట్రా అనేది వాళ్ళు అక్క అడిగితే హ్యాపీ ఉమెన్స్ డే టు డాడ్. Definitely they also deserve a wish because without them we would have
Actually, I wanted to add that line to the end of our meeting. Definitely, there are men who are coming up and supporting us. And without their support, we are nothing. I should say that we are nothing. With their knowledge, with their support only, we are having a smooth road now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they definitely deserve a grateful thanks from all.
Let's clap.